Okay, so last time we were talking about early police, and as we kind of reviewed, there were a lot of problems that came in, that they were very aggressive, and that there were this call for change happening. And so this led to a lot of negative attitudes about a corrupt police force that seemed only interested in making money. Harmed and killed citizens quite a bit to the point that where maybe you think like these days it's pretty bad, but it used to be far worse. So, but this led to a sort of call for change, right? In that a call to be a more professional organization. And so, what's kind of professionalism then? It was meant to be like, what is our greatest model of a modern organization that is has rigor and is accountable and holds up to it. So this really called to model off the military. So police became very militaristic. We had uniforms to identify police officers as officers, somebody you could rely on. There was actually more training that was put into place, and more of a hierarchy that came into leadership roles and positions as far as who can or cannot act enroll how leadership comes to man. So it became a very vertical organization. And so as a result of becoming more vertical, right, the goal was to really crystallize the mission, and there was more of a focus on using techniques and building strategies to combat crime. So both combating and preventing kind of crime. And so with this, like, we see a lot of new introductions that are in police technology. In that, we have cars that are coming into place. Cars are believed to be, really quick. You're able to get into able to get to crimes and calls is easier. You're more mobile. But this has a consequence of separating the officer from the public. So no, it's easier. It's harder to talk to police officers when they're in a car rather than they're on the street. So there's a bit of a trade-off that ends up happening. Radio communication comes out, and we see that radios are used for directing patrols, mobilizing officers, getting people help whenever they need it. And so it's at least a more efficient communication. So if there was something that was going on at Central, they can call in for help, or if an officer needed aid, they could do that as well. And probably another big one that ended up happening was like a big telephone issue where as telephones spread, people call police, as well as the development of the 911 system. And what ends up happening with this is that people have a greater expectation for police to show up if they're called. And if that ends up happening, when you have someone who's being called more often, you have a greater expectation for what's happening. So you believe police should be there, because, you have the ability to get them if you so chose, right? So when they call in like that, it really shapes the relationship, because before you'd see people on the street, people would call and handle street crime, but also allowed police to come inside. So in cases, say, of domestic violence or murder or something like that. So police come inside and they become, more exposed to private life of people. So with this said, all of these things shape expectations, right? We do have expectations about, the speed, right? Now, police are often judged on, preventing crime, but getting to something faster doesn't necessarily make you better at preventing crime, usually because the crime's already in place, right? So, but this was like a big call for having new cars, new equipment, and the like, in order to keep people off the street and attack them. There's also a need for new equipment, because there's this long held belief that having the latest and greatest in technology or whatever is going to allow more efficiency. And while it's cool to have police come out and really be efficient in like who they're targeting or whatever, it doesn't necessarily work in that manner, right? So it's kind of an interesting mess, right? Is that we have police that are constantly calling for equipment, something that's new to protect them that may or may not actually work. So it leads to, but the point being is that this background of abuse, plays a big role in understanding why there are big role in motives for understanding why police and the public can sometimes have an antagonistic relationship. Now, the rest of the chapter covers like different things about different agencies and what they're responsible for what. But I'll leave that for y'all to read. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next